London 200 years ago. Not many people realise that 200 years ago there was many Black Londoners as there are today. That means that there was one black person for every 38 white people. Some of them were slaves, but many of them were free, and this is the story of one of them. Olaudah Equiano was born in Benin, a place in West Africa where he lived with his parents and sister. One day, when he was playing with his friends, he was grabbed by two strangers. He was put on a big ship with lots of other kidnapped people and taken thousands of miles away to the West Indies. Imagine how you would feel if someone dragged you from the playground and took you by ship to a strange place where you had to work from early morning until the moon came up. That was the life of a slave, and poor Olaudah, who was only 11, cried himself to sleep every night. In bed, he dreamed of going home, but each morning he was back at work. Then one day, it was different. He was sold to a man named Captain Pascal, who was going to take Olaudah to England with him. This was another strange journey for Olaudah, but this time he saw many interesting birds, fishes, and man-eating sharks, which scared the life out of him. In London, Olaudah had a terrifying experience. He was playing with his new friend by the river, and they got into a small boat called a wherry. "Ship ahoy! Ship ahoy!" he shouted. He was really enjoying himself. He pointed to another boat coming towards them. Inside it were two bully boys. Smash! The two boats crashed and the wherry turned over. Olaudah and his friend splashed and choked in the water, but luckily, two riverboatmen saw what had happened and quickly came to the rescue. Olaudah was lucky that day. When he got to Captain Pascal's house, there wasn't time for a smack. The captain had to leave straight away because England was at war with France. Olaudah was so excited. During the sea battles, he and another boy had the dangerous job of powder monkeys. This meant that they had to keep the guns full of gunpowder. All around them, cannonballs crashed onto the deck, and many sailors were hurt, but not Olaudah. Olaudah then did something very daring. He got to the shore and jumped onto a horse so that he could get a closer look at the battle on the land. Of course, the horse was frightened by all the gunfire and it bolted. Off it galloped, and Olaudah had to cling to the branch of a tree. Otherwise, he would have fallen off the cliff with the poor horse. After the battles with the French, Olaudah started buying and selling his own animals and food. Within 4 years, he had saved enough money to buy his own freedom. This cost him £47, which was a lot of money in those days. Olaudah was now 21. He wanted to see his family, but he was scared that he might get kidnapped all over again if he went home to Africa. So he decided he'd go back to London and take lessons in hairdressing, music, and arithmetic. He got a good job with Dr. Charles Irving, who was famous in those days for his experiments to make seawater drinkable. Olaudah left Dr. Irving's for a while and went back to sea. One day, when his ship got to Italy, the volcano called Vesuvius erupted. Imagine Olaudah's surprise when he saw what looked to him like a mountain suddenly explode, and out of the top poured lots and lots of gooey, burning ash. It took a long time to wash it off the ship's deck. Olaudah was glad to get back to Dr. Irving's after that adventure, but instead of having a good rest, where do you think he went off to next? The North Pole. Dr. Irving was going on an expedition to see if ships could get to the other side of the North Pole through the ice, and Olaudah went with him. For the first time in his life, Olaudah saw polar bears, whales, sea lions, and huge icebergs. The icebergs could easily crush the ship, so everyone had to work hard breaking the ice at the side and in front so that the ship could slowly move forward. It was freezing, and Olaudah slipped and fell into the icy water.
Help! Nathan!
His friends hurried to pull him out before he froze like a statue. It took him a long time to thaw out, you know. When the battered ship arrived back in England, Olaudah was dying to sail off again for many more adventures. Eventually, after many more exciting times, he decided to settle down in London. He wanted to help people all over the world who were slaves, so he wrote a book about his life, which was very popular at the time. Today, we'd call that book a bestseller because thousands of people would read it, and the person who wrote it would be as famous as a pop star. The interesting narrative of the life of Olaudah Equiano, or Gustavus Vasa, the African, written by himself.